Right. So welcome, folks. This is our Taxonomy Tuesday session where we're going to look at the best of our 2024 finds. So before we jump into that, I'll give folks an opportunity if they have found something recently and they would like to discuss that. We'll start with that and see if we can identify any recent finds. And once we've scratched those off, we'll get into the best of. Several people have sent in some things, and we have quite a few to look at. If we look at everything that those a couple of people have sent. So I'm hoping everyone has something, but if you don't have anything to share, that's okay too. So, my name is Lila Meter. I'm president and I'm your host tonight, and I beg your pardon for my voice. So let's get started. Does anything have anything new that they've recently found? Check the chat here. If you have something that you'd like to share, you can put your name in. Okay, I see Brandon has some best of to share. Does anyone else have anything they want to share that haven't emailed it in already? All right, I don't hear anything. Brandon, I'll give you the floor to get us started, and then I'll share from my machine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I gotta go to my list, otherwise we wouldn't get very far. I'd just get distracted by other things. So this is cool. I think you guys know I really am into Talipocladium and these weird mycoparasitic things. And this was a new species that, for me, to add to the list that I've found. But you can see the Elaphomyces
Hey,
that it's
Brandon,
growing.
you're not
Yeah.
sharing yet.
Oh, sorry. You guys got me?
There it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, like I said, the species name that I was talking about that was new for me was Fractum, Talipocladium fractum. And you can see that the host Elaphomyces is a little bit bigger than I'm used to seeing. I think the species that the other two grow on is Apollinensis or Apollinatum, something like that. Not saying this is a different species, Elaphomyces, that it's grown off of here, but it is quite a bit larger than I'm used to seeing. And then the real key here, yeah, that's pretty much what I saw. The rest was buried. That's what these things do for those that are unfamiliar with them. Also had this kind of 2-3-headed monster look to it, where there were like 3 apothecia spore-bearing heads, more or less, coming off of the same stalk. But here are the spores, and they're really, really small. And they really kind of start out on a long line. Yeah, you can see here. And I'm guessing that's where it gets the species name Fractum. It's kind of like one long spore that's in fractions and breaks apart.
And I was going to ask, like, because it was so weird that they were all flat on the ends, but now it made so much more sense.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, this isn't the greatest photo. Not really able to see exactly what's going on in there, but there's multiple of these strands. Probably 8. So I don't know if that qualifies as one spore fractated and breaking apart, but I do know that's, when you read the species description, It talks about these tiny little spores breaking apart.
Kind of Basidiomyces.
No, it's an ASCO.
So is it,
This,
are
this,
those inside an asci then, the strands?
yep. So this is an ascus. This big long thing, that's an
Okay.
ascus. And that's why I was saying the photo is not great. But inside here are multiple of these things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I mean, matches pretty much checks off every mark for Talipocladium fractum, but it seems to be less reported than the other ones. I wasn't even aware of this one before.
Hey, Brandon, can you give a quick description of how you prepared that slide?
Yeah, this one probably, or no. Well,
Yeah.
so it was multiple slide preparations to capture this. This is from a spore drop. So I just essentially laid the spore bearing surface, these darker caps, and you see those little bumps there. Those are the individual apothecia. That's like actually where the spores come out of. So I just laid that head on a slide, left it overnight, and these actually dropped a good amount of spores. And you can see the dark spore mass, so much so that you want to wipe a little bit of that spore mass away so you get a good clear shot of the individual, whether you want to call that one spore or a bunch of spores, not sure. It was so long ago, I forget what actually is going on there. But so you can get a good clean look at that. And then on a different preparation, or I probably just wiped that slide clean and reused it. Took a little bit of that, again, the spore bearing surface, and pretty much did what I would call a smash mount. Just smashed it between the cover slip and the slide itself. And I'm talking a very, very small piece of material so that you can see.
So that's relatively soft, that black material?
Yes. Yeah. It's not it's not like carbonaceous like some of the other,
Yes.
black ascomycetes. The cap of this is more fleshy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You have any other questions?
Not yet.
Cool.
Yeah, Brandon, it's Talipocladium capitatum and Longus segmentum also have spores that are like hooked together in these long strands when they first come out of the asci. But it looks like this one, which I don't see listed on Microquebec, has smaller actual spores. Once they break apart.
Right. Yeah, that was what took me back too, because even in like Longus segmentatum, let's go back to this one where you can see it on the micrometer there. Even those segments, because those spores on capitatum and Longus segmentatum, I mean, they're huge, right? Like one's up to, I forget the exact numbers, but they're really big. So even those segments are larger than these little pieces.
Jones had a favorite among the sayings of Poor Richard.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It looks like the individual spore segments in Longus segmentum are sort of longer and tapered. And these are kind of truncate. They look truncate, like squared off at the ends.
Right.
The actual spore segments.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for differences, because I don't know this species. I don't think I've ever identified this.
And look at how, Dave, if you can see the screen, look at how unique and long. I mean, I want to say, do I have fragments 5.5? Yeah, I don't have the exact measurement of this, but if you average 5.5 for each one of those segments, this thing was probably 150 microns long.
Yeah. I think Longus segmentum might have strands of spores that rival the lengths of these. I'm going to check that right now.
Cool. I don't want to take up too much more time because I know we probably have a lot of observations. So I'm just going to
Yeah,
move on.
keep moving. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So this was really cool. This set probably, I don't even know if I uploaded it right away when I found it because I was just like, I don't know what the heck that thing is. I was just, sitting on the photographs, and then maybe I uploaded it once I figured out it was a Nocibe. But I didn't know what this thing was for the longest time. I figured a Nocibaceae, but nothing really fit, and it's such a tough, family of things to figure out unless you have, some really standout identifying feature. One of which you can see here. This is not completely unusual for an Nocibaceae, but it is something, some of them have this kind of bulbous, kind of abruptly flat on the top bulb.
Yeah, also the reddening flesh in this type. That's another feature that's sometimes mentioned.
And you can see
some of the species.
This clearly has, not only reddening, but it's darker at the base and then gets very light at the top. So I'm not sure how useful, I don't know how useful those descriptions that mention those things are anyway. But for this thing, because I think I found 3 of these over the course of a couple months, like 3 separate individual fruiting bodies over the course of a month or two. And they looked wildly different. One of them had a thin yellow stipe, and it was yellow the entire way. But once you get to the spores, I think you pretty know what you're looking at. Another thing to look at with a Nocibe is this rimose thing, where it looks like the cap, as it approaches the margin, kind of tears apart the Piliopellis. It's not quite cracked. It's not quite striated. It just kind of seems like it's stretching the Piliopellis until it breaks and gives it this kind of appearance. I don't know how to better describe it.
That's why Gary Linkoff called Anocibes fiber heads, because sometimes they tear apart quite dramatically radially. The cap surface does, and then it looks like it's made of fibers.
Gotcha. And then these are the spores, which Anocibe have wild-looking spores. You got to catch them at the right angle. This one here, definitely this one over here, that's even out of focus. But the species name Digitula comes from these having a lead node, I think it's described as, or one of these digits is the big one, like that one right there. I didn't quite catch the kind of crystal. You can almost see it a little bit here. There's some refractive elements going on, kind of shiny under certain magnification, but it's tough to, on my microscope and taking a photograph through my phone, it's tough to get it in focus. But again, there's something going on up here, and that fits for an Nocibe.
Yeah, I think the nodulose or stellate spores tells you it's an Nocibe. I don't think the other genera have spores like that. I'm not sure.
I think you're correct on that. I got to go back and look at them. the breakdown on anasabaceae.org does a really good job of just like putting that right there. It's like, all right, does it have pleurocystidia and chylocystidia and the spores are nodulose? Bang, it's this thing, right? And I think in Nosope, you're right, is the only one that has nodulose spores, but some species in Nosope proper are smooth. So it doesn't.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's quite a few true anosopes that have ellipsoid to what's that word? That phasia form, like bean shaped spores.
I don't know if
Yeah, quite a few do. And then they're hard to tell. Then you have to look at the cystidia.
Yeah. But I tagged Sigrid, who I'm not sure if she like described this thing but she knows a lot about them. It is a new name, so maybe it'll start catching on a little bit and people will be finding them. But as of now, there's only a few people that have found them, and she seems to know them. So I think that's what this is.
I
cool.
should look through my anosopy observations and see if I can find one
Yeah.
that has spores that have this one large digit.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
that's
sure-
something I didn't know about until, well, you showed this a month or so ago.
Mhm.
Now you're showing it
And
again.
I'm sure you wouldn't be the only one there, Dave, right? Like there are people that have been looking at mushrooms and posting their stuff online for a long time that haven't come across this name. Like I'm sure there are a few digitulas floating in there amongst people like
Well,
yourself.
most often I don't try very hard to identify an anosomida species. There's just so many species, and there's a lot of undocumented ones. So it's really, it's a lot of times that you just go down a rabbit hole and don't find
never
anything.
Speaking of which, let's keep going here.
Yeah, sorry.
So this is a cool one, kind of maybe possibly similar thing as with the anosopy we were just talking about. I think this thing could be Pachypondensis, Salmonida pachypondensis. And again, I showed this before, but it's really cool because it's named. Igor named it. First of all, I think he's described to this thing, and it's named for Packham Pond in Brendan Byrne State Park, which is a place that I like to go often. And it's cool that there's now a name for that park in South Jersey in the Pine Barrens. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Igor, correct me, one of the things you're looking for is the gray sock on the basal bulb.
Well, I don't think any of these graying vulva section vaginata species have a well-defined vulval sac. I think they all have very friable universal veil at the base of their stipes. And, this is true for, things like Amanita varicolor, Amanita pachypondensis, and Amanita rhacopus, which is also found in the Pine Barrens because we got a sequence collection from a couple of years ago. In my experience, pachypondensis, which I've seen only once or twice, has a truly gray cap color. It's not brown. So this one shows this to be more brown than gray, and it also has a darker umbo at the top. I cannot exclude pachypondensis from consideration, but that would not be my first choice, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, that's good to know because that wasn't the one that I was trying to show, and I'll just show it real quick. I did put them up out of order. I was going to show that one later if we had time.
There is also another graying or gray vulva section of vaginata that was discovered through sequencing, and that got a name of Amanita trupioi, named after its first collector, a guy with the last name Trupio, who was a member of our club, and I don't think he rejoined since 2022. Al Trupio, I think he is somewhere in the Manasquan area. So we got 2 sequence collections, but that one has actually a brown cap, not a gray cap. So it's never gray; it's always brown, some shade of brown, yellow brown or darker brown. But I'm just trying to tell you that there's a variety of Stirpsterorcula type things in the Pine Barrens that you have to be kind of careful trying to derive names for these things from the morphology alone. You've got to do some sequencing, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this one is different from the other one, right?
Yes, this is a different observation.
Yeah, this is more gray, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Could be Pachympadensis, more so than the other one.
Cool.
And look at the gills
Yeah.
themselves. They're sort of grayish too, right?
Yeah, I don't think I would have noted that in real time.
Yeah. Well, they kind of look grayish on the screen, at least on my screen. Or maybe it's just an artifact of digital photography, shading and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this cap got pretty washed out, kind of bleached out, but
Yeah.
definitely this one was definitely more gray than brown.
Right. So that kind of excludes, Rhacopus from consideration, and varicolor, which is very variable, but it's never gray.
Sure.
It varies from almost pure white to very dark brown, but varicolor is never gray. And varicolor is the same thing that Rotellus calls Vulpecula and Docharii. That's been confirmed genetically, a long time ago.
Okay.
So yeah, Pachympadensis for this one, I would go for that more than anything else.
Yeah, it's definitely not Rhacopus,
No.
but you do see the gray UV remains on the base of the stipe.
Sure. Like I said, all these taxa.
That's a good thing to see.
I'm sorry, I'm
Yep.
chewing here. All those taxa would show gray or graying vulva eventually.
All right, cool. All right, last 2, I'll just breeze through this because it's cool, but not much to it other than it's a blackening Russula, and probably uncommon in New Jersey. This is one of the blackening Russulas, so once you damage pretty much any part of it, it's going to go kind of dark brown to black. I think you can probably see that dark, brownish, but that to the naked eye could not be considered red. I can assure you of that. Yeah, and it's pretty immediate. It goes this brown and then quickly turns a deep, like charcoal black, like really, really black. But again, it skips the red stage, so that helps you narrow it down. There were some tree associations that really helped with this one. Or was it the habitat really helped with this one, that it was mostly hardwoods. And the gill spacing helps you rule out a couple of the other just blackening Russulas, that those other ones have more. These are pretty delicate for a blackening Russula, more typical of the genus. But some of those other reddening or just straight blackening Russulas have much wider spaced, as well as kind of more waxy and a little less fragile gills. But
Well, Brandon, what do we know really about the species Michiganensis? Is there a type collection that's been sequenced? Is there a well-formed species concept that can be applied to collections outside of Michigan? And who is really propagating this name on INAT?
I don't know. What do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I know it's one of those blackening rusivus, similar to the simulants and densifolia, or what we call, the simulants and densifolia. One has a very wide spacely gills, the other one doesn't. But otherwise, they're quite similar. And sometimes they can be gigantic. Sometimes they're, sort of modestly sized. I don't know. I mean, there's probably other actors, in the same group, directly black, no red.
I
No.
think there's something that was called subnigrations.
Well,
There's also
subluridellus is
migrations.
from
Some of those
Japan.
are European, though.
That's a toxic species from Japan. We don't have it here.
Yeah, yeah. But one
Um,
of them, I think, is thought to occur in North America. But I think that's what might be Michigan. What is it? Michiganensis? No.
yeah, the Alba nigra type thing.
Yeah, that's right. It was Albo. Yeah, yeah, that's right. I'm not sure if that. I just looked on Myco Quebec, and they have the species that Brandon is using here. They have that name for something on one of their pages. Yeah, it was Albo nigrations. Let me see if they have that.
Well, you see, my point is somebody begins to popularize a certain name, and then everybody sort of jumps on a bandwagon, and all of a sudden we have, false good news. So I'm not blaming, Brandon of doing that, but I mean, I've seen this trend before, and it's kind of difficult to fight this kind of information without any concrete evidence, one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I figured if it's got a mushroom expert page and a Myco Quebec page, it's a pretty valid species, right?
I mean, I would trust more Myco Quebec than a mushroom expert because that whole thing is quite outdated, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Mushroom Expert doesn't update enough. Myco Quebec has Albo. What is it? Albo nigres, Albo nigrans, and they also have Michiganensis. So you can go to Myco Quebec maybe and read, the differences between those two that are reported there.
Who is the author on Michiganensis?
Let me look. Albo nigra is I don't see it here.
Brandon, you want to show that last one?
Should be at the top, Dave, with the name.
Yeah, I know. It's not showing anything.
Nah, it's all right. We're short on time. If we have time afterwards.
All right, yeah, we can
We'll circle
continue
back
this.
then. Yeah. All
That's
right.
fine.
So does anybody else that's joined late have anything that they want to share? If not, I'll go to the emails in the order received.
Just one last thing. Yeah, it's Michael Quebec has AF Albo nigra. So there's no author listed there because it just resembles.
Well, I think Alba nigra is European.
Yeah, so they have AF Albo nigra. So it's something that's unnamed that looks like.
Yeah, AF means affine, and you were related to, but not not CF, because CF would be almost like completely confident that that's that.
Yeah, well, that's why there's no author listed. What do they have? Let me see what they have for Michiganensis. But go ahead, continue.
Right. All right.
Okay, it's my little slideshow. I just picked two best photos from each month, and I want to just blow through them. There's not a lot to talk about, but they're more like my best photos as opposed to like best finds. So but two of my very best photos happen to be in January last year, which is surprising that you would have beautiful mushrooms in the middle of winter. But these scarlet cups, and then the next one, are you able to progress, Lila? Yeah. The Schizophyllum commune. That's what I got here, right? Do I have that wrong? Oh my God.
That's right.
That's a phylum.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Was just, the weather just seemed to, the crisp, cool weather just seemed to make these mushrooms really pop and be beautiful. So, yeah, and then February is, as slow as usual, so grew some king oysters, some king trumpets in my basement, and done that the last couple of years. And they're pretty easy, I find, and good to eat. And I've got some to start now, but I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to them, but I'll probably grow around this winter too. We can move on. Just gonna blow through these. Devil's Urns came out in February in Illinois, which was like crazy, and to be seen, indicator of morel mushrooms in February. But I should have actually paid more attention to it. And instead I went down to Southern Illinois, and we can move on. But morels, the first morels I found were March 25th. So we had just a super early season. And I think I've shown some of these pictures before, so I just want to kind of run through these real quick and not take too much time. This was just another find from March last year, I think, Pezizales. But if anyone wants to chime in here, we could talk more about this one. I don't know.
Probably Phylogenum.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a new genus for that one now too. I forget what it's called. Sometimes if you pick one of these and slice the bottom of it where it's connected to the substrate, a lot of times the inner flesh will be a little bit purple.
Okay.
It's Phylogenum.
Okay, cool, thank you. We can move on. So April, I think this is Copernapsis, my case, Copernapsis, my case.
Copernellus.
Copernellus, my caseus, the mica cap. And they were looking really nice with the moisture on them. And then these are that Morchella prava, which is this morel that stays dark through maturity, and unlike our regular yellows that'll start like gray or darker inside the pits when they're young, but then they change to those beautiful yellow morels. This keeps that dark appearance inside the pits. And I think they're really cool looking. I enjoyed finding those and eating those. And then May came, and I showed this last May to everyone. This was the first bolete I found of the year, and Suillus weaveri, and just really surprised me to find them in early May. It was off my radar, totally unexpected. And a nice kind of spread of them, for sure. So it was neat. So these have those dots on the stipe, little dots, and that's one of the ways you know that's what it is. And it's named after the female mycologist, or female who first found these. Weaver was her last name. And then this is the Pseudo-Ionotus striatus. And I think I also showed it already in May, but this gets really large. It grows at the base of oaks. I believe it's parasitic. And this was a really young one, and it's kind of enveloping that piece of grass, and which is kind of neat.
Oops, sorry, I didn't.
Is this put in Phamatopsis now?
Is it?
I'm not, is this Spraggii?
No,
No,
Oh, it's not. Okay, sorry.
that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's still in it. It's in a notice.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard it called pseudo notice, but
I have too.
yeah, I'm not really sure what, I think it might just be in a notice now, I'm not sure. But,
Uh, All these gutules are just spectacular from great big ones to smaller and right down to little tiny ones.
Yeah, this is a great shot.
Yeah.
yeah, and they'll always, pretty much always display those, and sometimes they're kind of reddish when they get older, the gutturals. So, yeah, it's a neat mushroom, interesting, for sure,
Cool.
yeah. This is Phlebia incarnata, and just really pretty. So we never see it without the Stereum species behind it. As far as I know, it's really only grows exclusively with the Stereum, never by itself. And so that's an interesting relationship that I know very little about. I don't think many do, but if anyone has anything more to chime in on that, that'd be interesting.
Only that I think it's a pretty one-sided relationship. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is parasitic on the Stereum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
It's so pretty, that
It's
pink.
beautiful. That's a nice specimen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, in general, they're really interesting, that pink color. Okay, we can keep going. But bird's nest fungi, this is Cyathus striatus, the fluted bird's nest. So it has those ribs lining the inside that you won't see in some of the others, and the eggs tend to be what looks like eggs. The spore bearing structures inside that look like eggs tend to be kind of bluish, grayish, as opposed to some of the others that might be more yellow. And so I love these, they're so neat. We can move on. And so this is has the new species name. Starting with
Calycina.
what is it?
Calycina. It
Yeah,
used to be Bisporella. Now it's Calycina. I think it's Calycina.
Calycina, and then what is the epithet?
Citrinum.
The trinum. Yeah.
Right, yes, okay. Calycina citrinum. Yeah, and so these are just tiny, tiny, tiny little cups, that is just blown up immensely. And we can move on. So this is the first porcini I've found in like my area of Illinois. Boletus atkinsonii is what I'm calling it. And I think I showed it, I'm not positive. And that was exciting. I think, I mean, there's one other possibility, maybe it could be, I don't know. I'm starting to play with the quiz on Michael Quebec and focusing on the Boletus, and there was one that sort of looks kind of similar. But yeah, so I think it's atkinsonii. And so we can go on. Oh, so the chrome-footed bolete, this is the first time I found it and ate it and really liked it. And I had forgotten the scientific name. Can someone chime in? Chromapes,
Harrya chromapes.
Harrya chromapes.
Yeah, named for Harry Tears.
Oh, okay. Oh, so what's the What's the genus?
Harrya.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this bounced around between Tilapalus and Lexinum, I think, for a number of years. I think Tilapalus, because the spore color is pinkish brown, and Lexinum because it has scabers on the stalks. But now it's a genus that only has like 2 species in it. One, well, what that we know. There's something else from like Arizona that might be different. We're not sure. Igor might know though. But we have Harrya chromapes here in eastern North America, and then there's something that looks just like Harrya chromapes that grows in Australia and has a different species name.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, yeah, and thank you for spelling that too. Thank you. Excellent.
I might
Yeah.
want to add that there's something different that grows in Arizona that's related to Harrya chromapes, but has a different DNA than our Harrya chromapes. And it's also been suspected by some people that we may have a more than one species in the east as well. So this is all still a theory, but for the time being, I think calling this Harrya chromapes is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's interesting, Igor, because I have found Harrya chromapes, what I call Harrya chromapes, in 2 very different sorts of habitat.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, one grows with birch in deciduous woods, and then I also find Harrya chromapes growing in the pine barrens under oak and pine.
Yeah, I've found it. Well, I find it with birch and hemlock,
Yes.
but I also find it. I found it a few times in a little further south from where I am, southwest, in oak woods.
And this was probably all hemlock, white pine, I would say.
Yeah, there was this professor from New Hampshire who wanted collections of Harrya chromapes years ago from people. I'm not sure where his research, stands at this point in time, but he surmised there were more than one entity we're calling Harrya chromapes. I don't have any more information on that, so.
Interesting. It's interesting those differences can be like, I mean, small enough that we can still feel confident in eating the mushroom, and that is certainly the case with so many mushrooms, like the chanterelles, for example. But it's also where you have to be so very careful too. But there's like no lookalikes for this, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, morphologically, the species really stands out. The question is it a single entity, at least in the east, or do we have more than one? Because whatever goes as Harrya chromapes in Arizona, which is an unusual geographical area to begin with, because there are many taxa there of boletes that have similar DNA to those in the east, but not quite. So there's possibly an instance of speciation because of geographical isolation, because most of these boletes are found in the special area called cloud forests or whatever. They're like at a higher elevation, so there's some geographical barrier that allowed for these things to essentially begin speciation. So yeah, I think you'll find in some instances in Boletaceae that segregation of taxa by geography and habitat becomes very relevant.
It's very interesting, really fascinating. So this is Gyroporus cyanescens. And the first time I found it and first time I ate it and really liked it too. It's really cool. What not to like, that blue, so amazing. So this was from northern Wisconsin, so was the last photo as well.
Did you know that this was going to be blue when you opened it up, when you found it, or
I
you
was
surprised?
kind of looking for it. It had been on my radar. I'd been with other people who had found it, and I knew it was edible and stuff. So I was kind of like, oh, I think I know what this is, and then it was like, oh yeah, it is, yay.
Okay, all right, so it wasn't a total shock.
No,
All right, cool. It's
I,
beautiful.
I also want to add that this is another instance of a species group potentially, because there's a quote unquote Gyroporus cyanescens from Arizona that has a different sequence from what we have here in the East. So again, we're seeing the same story repeating itself time and again, with Arizona being the hot spot for these, doppelgangers from the East.
that is so
Yeah,
fascinating.
if you go on MO and check out observations by Terry Clements, who's
Yeah,
very heavy into sequencing, you will find out more about these nuances.
yeah, and I mean, I wish I was pulled to go to Arizona in the middle of the summer, you know, in bolete season. It's just like, it's
Yeah, I suddenly remember those areas are referred to as sky islands. So there are, mountainous area with forests, I think, at an elevation, and they're sort of kind of isolated from each other and also from the rest of the country. Very kind of a montane area.
Have you looked there ever, Igor?
Have I what?
Have you gone to look for boletes in Arizona yet?
I've never been to Arizona. I'm not sure if I ever go there, but it'd certainly be an interesting experience.
Yeah,
I mean, before going to Arizona, I want to go to the Gulf states to look for boletes there, because that's a total terra incognita as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, and it's easier to get
Well, I
there.
don't think it's easier. There's just a lot of very unique species that you don't see here in the East, whereas things from Arizona resemble more. It resembles taxa
Oh,
from the East more than those from the Gulf states.
fascinating. That's so interesting.
It is.
Yeah,
You know,
Again,
you
think about where Arizona is and where geographically it is relative to the Bible Belt and the East Coast, say, or the Eastern USA.
yeah, some of these patterns of,
They're almost like, I mean, they're not predictable. They're not logical.
no, yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah, really fascinating.
Igor, when do they find most of the boletes in the Gulf states? Do they find them early in the season? Like late spring?
They're finding some now still.
Yeah, I think it's that area is more subtropical, so I think boletes have a much wider growing season. I think they're more common in the summer and early fall, and then they're sort of trailing off toward the winter. But yeah, I mean they have a much longer bolete season in the south than we do here in the Northeast.
Yeah, well, I do know that in Arizona, probably if you want to look for boletes and other, mushrooms in Arizona, it's probably you want to go there in late August or early September. It's when they have what they call a monsoon season.
Exactly.
Right. And there's none none this time of year there, like nothing. I went there last year and all I found was false earth stars everywhere. But that was it. There's no, like, really zero mushrooms in the winter there. So it's kind of in same season as we have, pretty much.
One last comment I want to make about Gyroporus senescens is that it really stands out from all the other more conventional species of Gyroporus because they're smaller, they're more morphologically homogenized, and they don't stain blue. So I'm wondering whether this one is going to be segregated, into a partitioned into a separate genus, or there's going to be more of a kind of a sectional gradation within a wider circumscribed genus in the future. This is something for phylogenists to handle, But if you think about what you see here and compare that with your normal or standard, castaneus, Gyroporus castaneus, or CF or AF castaneus, they're very, very different.
Yeah, even the stem doesn't have those chambers. Isn't it more solid in this than like Castaneus?
They're more fragile. That they have those chambers, and they don't stain blue.
Right.
So it,
this
it could be
doesn't
just like an outlier, when the genus was larger. This is like the survivor from that particular branch of the genus. If it shows monophyly, based on the whole genome sequencing or a panel of loci has been done, before, then there's no question about it. But I just find it very interesting that we have such a, very strong morphological dichotomy between this particular species and the rest of Gyroporus.
Igor Navid might know. The
Yeah, of
answers to
course.
some of your
But
questions.
I'm not even sure if he is still dealing with, Gyroporus or whether he moved on. All right, let's move on here as well. Postia, right?
Yes, Postia, caesia, caesia, I think, blue cheese polypore. And yep, it's cool to see and looking blue. I really hadn't ever seen it, looking so nice and blue.
Yeah.
The spore print is blue for these.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's like a slate blue, sort of.
Thank you for saying that. I will definitely try to make one next time. And this is near me, so hopefully it'll come back again, and I can make a spore print. Cool. And this is Hypsozygous ulmarius, the elm oyster growing. Ulmarius is elm, and so this favors elm trees. And that's that. And then October came, and if you guys remember, it was so dry everywhere. Dry there, dry here, miserably dry. But I kind of trekked around and managed to come to this area where these were really prolific and beautiful. And I think I was still calling these Chrysoblema. But
Is this Persicina?
well, is that the same as that's different than Persina?
Or Persina, I mean.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't have
sorry.
that. So we kind of all went through that discussion, that Persina doesn't make it up this far north. And I think
Oh, where did you find this one? In Michigan?
these are northern Illinois.
Oh, Northern Illinois. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Persicina is known as far as northern New Jersey, I think, or maybe Long Island, and
I
that's
think
it.
I found it here, but it not, maybe once or twice. Northeast PA.
It's possible. I'm just trying to look at the map and see where Illinois comes in. Are you in northern or southern Illinois, Hunter?
Very far north. I mean, this, like two, I mean, under 2 hours from the Wisconsin border. So, but I have this specimen dry, so I should do some work on it, I suppose, if it would help. But I think someone had said like it might not even be helpful. Like it would really need to be.
The spores might be the same.
Yeah,
For
the
Persicina
DNA
and
would have to be
Chrysoblema.
done.
One
Well,
thing
in
you
the
can
field,
check.
we can certainly segregate them. The color suggests Persicina, but I'm looking at the
Oh,
map,
I'm sorry.
and
What'd you say?
Persicina. Persicina is the species name.
Right, I say Persicina, but that's, yeah, right.
No, it's Persicina. Persicina is, well, I mean, it just varies pronunciation, but when I
Yeah.
checked with Google Latin, it said Persicina.
Okay,
Okay.
But I'm looking at North New Jersey has the same latitude as Aurora, Illinois, pretty much.
okay, yeah, and that's about the right latitude. Yeah. So interesting.
Persicina has a really weak partial veil that is easily lost. I'm pretty sure that's true. Chrysoblema is a little bit more persistent, the partial veil, so the ring will
Yeah.
be a little more prominent.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Persicina with absolutely no remnants of partial veil, as if it's like it was none
Exactly.
to begin with.
It looks
Yeah.
like the top specimen still has it.
Yes.
But yeah, there's nothing showing on, well, hard to know, yeah.
Was
Well,
this found under white pine?
white pine. Mhm.
And most likely it's chrysoblema or Gusoa, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what we kind of all decided on, when I showed you guys last time, that it's just an orange variation of chrysoblema. So, yeah, but I might as well try to do some microscopy for fun on it this winter, see what I can find, if anything different.
Cool.
Okay, and then this was up at this foray in Wisconsin at Kemp Station, and I just was excited. I didn't pick it, I just took a picture of it. It's Russula brevipes, but up in the North Woods. I don't know if it occurs elsewhere. We have this Russula veripes variation acrior with this blue ring where the stipe and gills meet, and otherwise they're like exactly the same. And so I thought it was really cool to see that in the flesh, and had to take a picture.
Nice.
And Russula brevipes is one of the most commonly parasitized mushrooms that turns into the lobster mushroom. So it's good to know those, right? That's one of them, right? And then Lactarius.
Yeah, that little blue ring at the top of the stipe. That's a. There used to be a variety of brevipes. They
It's called
said.
variety acrior.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but those turn into lobsters sometimes, right? The hypomyces.
Probably. I have a
Hard
hard
to-
time figuring out what the lobsters used to be.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, they say it's like Russula brevipes and then like some Lactarius. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard too that there's more than one host for that mold.
Yeah, but it's like, who does really know? Because Dave's right, and it's like, yeah, unless you see it, well, it's happening halfway, maybe.
I don't know. They emerge coming out of the ground looking like lobsters, I think, but
Right, yeah, it's fascinating.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, I checked my mushroom expert on Amanita persicina, and Michael Quo says it associates with a variety of different pines, but he does not mention white pine.
Okay, and does he say it's where does he say the range is? Where does he say, because he lives in Illinois, I'd be curious,
I'll check.
Okay,
All right. So this is definitely white pine. So that's a data point then. All right.
so I don't know what this is, I just kind of threw it in, because I think it's the same as one that was growing next to these other mushrooms I showed a month or two back, and I think maybe someone else knows what it is. I don't know. It's tiny, pretty small.
So
Tiny.
I would need. Oh, go ahead. Was somebody
I don't know what it is. It's intriguing though.
So I think there's this little thing called Pezizales succosa. I think, is that the one that stains yellow? Is there some yellow staining on this? I can check that. I'll check that. Michael Quo says southeastern United States and New York and New Jersey for persicina. So that sounds like chrysoblema is probably a better choice for your Amanita.
Okay.
I'm going to check this Pezizales succosa.
Okay. And then these Russulas were just nice to see, and we're in November now, and they were just really, really beautiful. And I didn't end up, or I think I took a spore print. I think we actually talked about these two. But it's inconclusive. Yeah, being a red Russula. This I saw in Mississippi, Louisiana a month or so ago, or in early December. It's Trichaptum biforme, and it's rare. I see it looking like this. I've seen other people take pictures of it, you know, looking just so beautiful, the purple. So it was exciting to see it looking like this. I did get a shot. And then this next one, it is Trametes versicolor. And I found this in Southern Illinois on the way to Louisiana. And it was also just looking really, really beautiful. I don't know why I got that frame around there, but it's not supposed to be there. But yeah, so that's that. And I think that's it, except I have this one other email I sent with one other species that Scott Johnson, who's a friend from Gulf State Mycological Society, he posted on Facebook, and he doesn't know what it is, and I don't know what it is, and I thought, and no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if people didn't really see it because it was in like a photo dump, but I thought I could share it, and if maybe we could try to figure out what it is. But I would think if anyone knew, someone here might. So I don't know if you got that, Lila. Did you get that one?
Yeah, let me get to I see I managed to lose my email here, so let me get back to it.
The Pezizales I was trying to think of, Sucosa, it's actually Paragactylina now, according to Michael Quebec, a new genus.
Oh,
I think it's probably larger on average than what Hunter was showing. It did look a little bit like it, and it is called the yellow juice Pezizales because it does exude some yellow liquid, and it gets some yellow staining. So I don't know what Hunter showed looked a little bit like it, but it's probably not the same.
okay. Thanks. I need to study up on those. I'm very lacking in.
Yeah, they're pretty hard. You have to do at least some micro usually to get a handle on the various Pezizales. And now that genus has been broken up, I guess, because there's these new names that I keep running into, new genus names.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yay. This is just wild. It's on holly, a holly branch. And I don't know, mushroom, slime mold. This was it, I think, earlier, and then it looked like the other, or further down the log, or
I
just.
wonder if this is some kind of like cordyceps type thing, and these
Yeah,
are just
That's
remains
what I
of
was
insects.
thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Same thought, or less so now that I see this photo with the the yellow epithelium. But I was thinking previously maybe polycephalomyces, the thing that grows on slime molds. Yeah, it looks like a thing growing on another thing. I agree with that.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's wild, whatever it is.
It is, it's absolutely so bizarre, yeah, yeah, okay. Well, I'll look down that road and see if I can learn more about it, and I'll tell Scott to check that out too. Thanks.
That's
Cool.
cool.
It is really
What?
lucky.
lots of really nice, nice photos there.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, great photos, Hunter.
Thanks, have a great one.
All right. I've got a bunch here. Let's start with this one. All right. So Igor will remember the day that we found this. This was a great club foray at Green Turtle Pond back in August, the one high point of the summer in terms of mushrooms. Let's see. So this is pretty unusual. I think it's fairly rare, but there were a number of them found. I think Lauren, I think maybe you and Mike found them first. And I thought it was just gorgeous. So quite interesting. Boletus morrisii, it's a peck species. And the color of the pore surface is amazing, and the stipe just fantastic.
Now, the only time I've ever seen this species was at a foray in New Jersey at Stokes, and I forget. Does this bruise or stain blue or any other color?
I think
Uh,
red. I think it stains red, right?
It got kind of dark on the top from handling. I don't have any pictures of it really staining. Maybe a little bit blue along the edge here.
Yeah, I wondered if Igor's was still here. He would know, but I can check. I'll check. I'll look on. I'm just going to go to another window.
It is such a gorgeous mushroom.
Yeah, it was. All right, so that was that one.
Is Xerocomus morrisii a synonym, and does it supersede that, or is it the previous name?
I don't know about any of the naming history. Probably, I don't know, more peck. It's been around for a long time if it's a peck species. So maybe there is another name for it. This was the name that was available on Mushroom Observer.
I put a link to it on Western PA Mushroom Club's website, their bolete filter.
Oh, right, it'll be there. Yeah.
All right, here's
And they say it does stain red.
okay. All right.
Yeah, and just real quick, Index fungorum has the current name is Xerocomus morrisii,
Gyroporus, okay.
which I didn't know. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, good. All right. All right, here's an oddball, and I included it just because it's kind of an oddball and it's fun to find this in the spring. This is the cedar apple rust. What is it? Gymnosporangium juniperus, Virginiana variation juniperus, I think, something like that. So these orange things erupt out of this gall-like structure in the spring. This was probably like mid-May when it got warm and after a rain. And they're just really kind of cool and different.
Yeah, it's funky, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Next up, what do I have here?
I've never seen that live. That's so cool.
Oh, you haven't seen that? Yeah.
No.
Look on juniper trees in the spring when there's a good rain.
I know.
Alright. Let's see. All right, this one I included just because it's beautiful. I think I have to keep sharing. And doesn't stick around for long. Just really starts to rot really rapidly. This Coprinopsis.
It's a really nice observation, Lila.
Thank you.
Is this Atramentardia?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a lot of UV material on it. It's interesting, but otherwise it does look like Atramentardia. So this is the one that if you eat it and consume alcohol, either well in advance or even a day afterward, you'll get sick.
So, Dave, how different is this from variegata?
Variegata has brown patches of UV material on the cap, and the cap is more of a yellowish ground color, I believe, or like a whitish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one's more striate. Although the striations are almost just like streaks.
Variegata,
Actually, I did call this variegata. Maybe I've got it wrong.
was this growing on wood or?
Yes, an old rotting stump.
Oh, that sounds more like variegatus. Maybe this is
Yeah.
variegata.
Yeah, I
And
did call.
there might be more color variability to the cap than I'm giving it credit for. It's probably variegata because that's unusual for Atramentardia to have so much UV
Have
material.
that much stuff on it. Yeah.
Right.
And the UV kind of bottom left in that photo looks pretty brown.
I love that, either partial or universal veil remnant at the lower stipe in the preceding photo. That's very cool. Yeah, these
These.
kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. It was fascinating.
Yeah, Igor, that you think that is just a really low annulus?
Well, you see, I don't know anything about the ontology of development of this of these Coprinopsis. I mean, do they have a universal veil, or do they just have a? I mean, the stuff on the cap would suggest a universal veil to me, right?
Right.
And or something like that. So the question is the the ring-like structure at the bottom just like a sort of a capsule that encapsulates the entire fruit body, at least from the upper stipe all the way to the top of the cap, or this is something different? Has anybody cut these things open when they are young? Do we see a true partial veil in these things?
Michael Kuo says morphologically variegata buttons are completely encased in a universal veil that soon begins to split apart into large patches.
Okay, so it is some kind of a universal type veil.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same sense as Amanita, because those are very special, but or Volvariella, which has a closer UV structure to Amanita than anything else. So these things are quite unique.
So, what's this white on that last photo?
Is that spore material? Or are the gills just recently pulled away from the stipe? So it's
I think that the spores of these are black, probably.
Yeah,
must be
they are.
some of the stipe material
That's
then
that
from
Foucault's, imprint as the gills pulled away from that internal limbus internus of the universal veil, quote unquote. You probably get that transfer, to the gill edges of that fluff.
Huh.
Yeah, and by the way, Michael Quebec has pictures of variegata that range from the color seen here on over to yellowish or even brownish.
Where did you find this, Lila?
In a mixed hardwood forest. I think it was probably on a dead tulip tree stump, well decayed tulip tree stump. There were a lot of them there. I went back the next day, but they were all gone. So I think the temperature got too warm, and even the younger ones then the next day were rotten by the time I got back to it.
Very ephemeral.
So
Yeah,
they deliquesce just like Coprinus comatus, right?
yeah, it's maybe not just like it, but in some
In a
sense
similar
they
fashion.
did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Coprinopsis species deliquesce pretty completely. It's the Coprinellus
Right.
that are sometimes do and sometimes don't. See, here's one that's deliquescing.
Yeah.
Look at along the edges.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I was just really taken with that collection this year. So that was why I included that one.
I don't think I've seen Variegata in New Jersey, in the flesh, so to speak. Maybe a long time ago at a foray, but they're quite rare. Just like Coprinus comatus is just quite rare. I mean, you have to go up north, to see it in New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, this is Morris County where I'm at, so. All right, you'll like this one, Igor.
Thrill me. Oh my God. Okay. Do we have more pictures? I think
Of
I know what
course.
this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. That's the chameleon, which shall be known eventually as Boletus subluridellus.
Subluridellus, okay.
Yeah. You found this under oaks, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty sure there was an oak.
Yeah, Smith actually described the species at least twice. Rufus cinnamomys is conspecific with subluridellus. And what we call Rufus cinnamomys here in the eastern United States is a totally different species, which is new to science. So the confusion will go till somebody will start publishing these things. And to my knowledge, all the type collections will eventually make it to a paper by Dentinger, maybe even this year. So yeah, this is very common. Widespread goes as far south as Louisiana, one collection sequenced from there, but very common in Northeast and all the way to the west to Michigan. So obviously
Wide range, yeah.
wide range, and it's a sister
sometimes
species.
Oh, go ahead.
It's a sister species to Civilutipes. They're on adjacent branches.
Sometimes the pores are yellow.
Correct. Just like in Civilutipes, they can be yellow occasionally.
Okay, oak present. Okay. Yeah, I think there was just the one, if I recall. Not too big.
So this is not subvolutipes.
No.
No.
No, but a lot of the field guides will say that it is.
A lot of the old, obsolete, outdated field guys will say that.
Well,
Even the newest Bisset Bali book lumps this in with the subvolutipes.
Yes,
page.
but interestingly, the two photographs that they have in the photo are the bona fide Civilutipes.
Yeah, but it's interesting though. But they say that the primary habitat is oak and sometimes conifers.
Because they haven't done any sequencing, that's why.
They're probably just quoting old sources as well.
Well, I think David, it's easier to say they're repeating themselves. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
all right. We'll do one. All right. Well, we'll just do these quick ones first here. Back on just a quick few photos, some beautiful turkey tails. They're very photogenic.
I just want to say something quickly. Whatever I say here about the boletes and the recent genetic studies, please try not to post anything on Facebook or Mushroom Observer, because I want these things to be published properly by the Dentinger lab, so then the news can spread out from the source, as opposed to I don't want to jump the gun, so please do not try to alter names or deprecate synonyms and things like that. Okay.
So for the time being, it's Neoboletus chameleon.
Correct. Nam-prov. Correct. Yes, and that name will go away once things get properly published. But till then, let's just keep them as where they are.
Good.
Real quick, does that qualify for Pachypondensis as well?
Well, Pachypondensis is actually a species on the Rudd's website. It's his name, not mine.
Okay, cool.
And it's a provisional name. So in NMO, it's a non-prov, and it gives the authorship as Thales. So it's perfectly fine to use that name, for the time being, as a provisional name anywhere.
All right, these were cool little tiny, what are they, Asteraceae? I'm not sure of the species, but tiny, like.
We're not seeing anything, Lila.
You're not seeing anything? Oh, sorry. Okay, share again.
We just see your Amanita jacksonii.
All right.
There you
we
go.
Yeah, here was the pretty turkey tail, to echo Hunter's pretty turkey tail. And then there was this, there were lots of these little tiny things. And Susan Hopkins told me that they can persist in the environment for a couple of years, I think she said. They're really quite robust, and they're tiny. That's, I would say less than an inch across. You can see the little tiny grains of sand here are quite magnified. But this was from the nymph on Cape Cod.
We used to call these Hydrometrica, but this is no longer applicable to the species, I understand, from the United States, correct?
Correct.
Smithii.
Smithii. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I thought-
Astreus smithii.
Astreus Smithii?
Yes.
Yeah, smithii is the new North American name.
And that's because the other species, Hydrometricus, I think it is European. And so it's genetically different.
Oh. And then this one, I think this is a very large Trametes gibosa, and I included it because I saw this after the funeral of a good friend. This is not far from where she was buried in September, and it was the only thing. It was so hot and dry, there was nothing out, but yet here was this, and she had been very encouraging of my pursuit of mushrooms, so I thought maybe it was a sign from her.
So this big cluster thing, you think is Trametes gibosa?
Maybe it didn't look like Climacodon.
Yeah, I thought of that too. It looks like it's on a maple.
Yeah.
Zoom in a bit more.
Yeah, do we have any more photos?
I probably have one or two on my phone or somewhere. Maybe I even have it posted on iNet. I don't know.
Yeah, you would need, if you saw the underside, you would know if it's Trametes or Climacodon, because Climacodon has teeth, right?
Yeah.
Spines.
Mm-hmm. I would guess Trametes gibosa would. I doubt this is Trametes gibosa. That's a pretty unique growth.
I think this is Climacodon.
You think it is?
Yeah.
Just from this extensive shelving, I would say that, but I cannot see any teeth,
Yeah,
Right.
that's the problem.
You just can't see under there to see what's going on.
But look at at that bumpy, upper surface that suggests, that Brandon may have a point here. That's just Trametes gibosa.
It looks like Cabosa from that, but yeah, the size of it, the collection, also screams the septentrionalis. But I didn't see teeth, but I was at a funeral, so I wasn't really spending any
Yeah,
time.
you
looking
really
at
have to look because the spines are really packed together
Yeah,
on the Climacodon. They're not real discrete looking. So the surface just ends up looking rather homogeneous. But I have found Climacodon that looks like this.
I mean, does it grow always at the base, or it can be anywhere in
Usually
the
it's
trunk?
up on the tree, but I've
yeah, I've
found
never
it
seen
on
it at the
downed.
base.
I've also found it on downed maples. But this was unusual weather as well. It was really dry.
Right. So,
I've got one in my iNet, a much smaller one, but it's got a very similar look to that.
So is this in Morris County?
no, this is up in it's probably Albany or Schenectady County, I'm not sure.
Okay. Do we know anything about the biogeography of Climacodon septentrionalis? Is it more of a boreal species, or do we find this in New Jersey as well?
I have seen it in New Jersey, but I usually see it further north.
Yeah, they call it northern tooth. And I see it more often in like the Adirondacks or the Catskills.
I
So think
found
it's
mine
more of
in
a
Sussex.
northern thing.
I see it further north, but I have seen it in northern Illinois, but more often further north.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's interesting because it's
And the tree is maple, correct?
yeah, I'm pretty sure the tree is maple.
Okay.
So it could be that, but when you zoom in and you look at those lumps, it kind of screams Cabosa that way. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was some.
Just a thought on those bumps. If you look kind of where you were zoomed, kind of centrally there, some of them are pretty sharp looking, and
Can you zoom in
doesn't
even more, or this is as much as you can go?
That's it. That's it.
yeah.
Now I'm trying to look at the edge of the fertile surface to see any, signs
Yeah.
of inkling, if there's like any spininess to it.
I don't see
And
any.
Not
Do you?
they're so tight on those. You wouldn't. I mean, like honestly, from a distance, they would just look. It just looks flat, like a pore surface almost. Like the teeth are that close.
Mm-hmm. Just packed in, huh?
Oh, super tight.
I'll look at some more. Find it on my camera and see if I took any better pictures.
I think if you look at the scap, Lila, if you just move your, this one, yes, no, yeah, to the right, you
These
can
two.
see some texture in that fertile surface, suggesting that maybe there are spines. This one, yeah, the
Yeah.
cap, that you're pointing to, exactly this spot, right?
Yeah. I'll look at some more, but it's funny how challenging some of these things can be. Yeah.
Well,
I
who
think
said
the
that
big
polypores
thing.
were easy? I mean, this is
Yeah.
not a polypore,
Yeah.
but it sort of qualifies as a shelf mushroom, right?
Yeah.
But that shelving is super unique to Climacodon, or however we're saying that. I don't know if I've ever seen Trametes cabosa growing in this like layered, kind of rounded fruiting structure before. It's a very Climacodon thing.
Yes,
Right.
I agree. I mean, from
Looking
what
like
I've
this.
seen on MO, I mean, that's an easy species to ID just from the gross, arrangement of these multiple shelves.
All right, good. All right, we got to move on because Dave's got a lot to show here. So let me.
Well, we don't have to show everything that I sent. I mean, I just had a hard time deciding on 5 things. There are lots of interesting things. Every year I find lots of interesting things. But well, anyway, we can start whenever you're ready. Oh, yeah, these in my yard, about 15 paces from my back door.
So
My
the email is in the way, Lila.
The email is in the way?
Oh, sorry, no, never mind.
Yeah, so this is what I'm calling Entoloma conferatum, I think is the species name I have here. And that means star-shaped, and it's the spores that are star-shaped. Now it might not be conferatum because I think that's a European species, and I don't think I have that anybody has sequenced any of my material yet. I'm sure I have some here at home. I may have sent some to Ohio, but who knows what's going to happen to that stuff. But 2 or 3 times this came out last spring, pretty early on my backyard lawn. It's a little bit striate on the margin, and when you get to the last couple of photos, you'll see the spores. I think it's maybe only the last photo. You'll see the spores are very uniquely shaped. Well, not completely uniquely. There's a few species in Entoloma that have spores that look like this, but I think I put a spore photo in there. Oh, it's coming up next. Yeah, there's your typical Entoloma spore print color. Yeah, there we are. See, they're like cubes, or like stars actually, because they're like cubes, but with the corners sticking out a little bit. So four-sided with the vertices of the where the sides intersect are kind of like points.
Like beet seeds.
Yeah,
Beet seeds.
beets, seeds, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Anyway, that was an interesting one. For in April, these were first showed up in April.
Can you go back to the
So
gill
that was-
shot on these, please?
Yeah, fairly typical Entoloma gills that are sinuate, really, really narrowly attached, and that's why I included these 2 photos of the sectioned mushroom, so you can see it's almost free.
Yeah,
And it
cool.
looks free there. You can't really see into the shadow there very well, but very, very thinly attached, like a thread thickness attachment. So it tapers almost completely, and then there's a little bit of an attachment there. You might be able to enlarge that photo by clicking on that little square up in the right with the arrows. And then down here it says show original photo down on the left. And then you click on and then click on the photo again. There we go. So you can see it's just barely attached by a tiny bit. It's like a little notch there, right? And but when you look straight down into the gills, you can't really see it. So what's that straight stalked Entoloma? That has a similar sort of gill attachment. Entolomas.
Strictius.
Strictius, right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that one's similar. But that one the spores aren't so they aren't four-sided like these.
Yeah. Cuboid.
Yeah, cuboid. Very, very interesting spores. So a pretty interesting species. Came out like 2 or 3 times. Now these are saprobic, so I don't know if I'll see it again.
All right, good. Next up. Gyroporus, Lucas.
Yeah, well, I'm calling it Leucoxantha, but I think this is actually might be this new species, Gyromitra persicana, or I may have put it in the notes someplace, or I may have put it under the ID proposal. So I'm calling it Leucoxantha. I didn't put it here. There's a link there, COBS 548. So I may have mentioned the other name there. There's a new name. Now I sent this to somebody, I forget who, and they said they were going to sequence it, but that was like 9 months ago. So we'll see what happens. This was also in my yard, up in my upper yard, not far from where I've been finding a few morels that are growing apparently from because I planted a grow kit there about 20 years ago. But yeah, there were 3 of them. One came up, and then these 2 other ones came up. So the spores on these later ones are lacking, like there's no gutule in the middle. But the ones that I was getting earlier had like there were more ornament, there were more contents. These don't have a lot of contents. And in the cotton blue, they're kind of bleeding out of these nodes on the poles, which I don't know what's going on there. The cotton blue is staining something apparently, but I don't know what. So pretty interesting species. It might be a more or less new species. Hopefully I get some information eventually on the DNA. So then be able
Dave,
to take it from there.
on those spores that looked like they were erupting, right?
Yeah, it looks like they're bleeding out of the.
Yeah.
I think Alden Dirks is calling those apiculi. Those sort of nodes on the ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now,
I'm
if you
wondering,
go,
I'm wondering if maybe there's like some material attached to the spore that was translucent before you put on the cotton blue, put it in the cotton blue. Like if there was some sort of, mucusy like membrane or something like that you couldn't see until it took
that's
in.
one potential explanation. If you go to the linked observation, the one that's linked then the spores, this was from an earlier one, I believe. This was May 2nd, and I think the other one was a little later. So the spores on these have more contents. So if you go to the spore photos, just move along here to look at the spores on these. They have like a gutule. There's more contents. So what I'm wondering is, do the contents become homogeneous and like blend together and start to bleed out of these apiculi? I mean, that's another explanation, possible explanation. But at any rate, this is a pretty interesting thing to find. And I'm not even sure it's still going to be Gyromitra. Alden Dirks's paper it's either been published or it's ready for publication, and there's been a lot of splitting. And I think some of these discoid Gyromitra are going back into Discina or Dicina. I'm not sure how to say it. So the closest thing to this that's common would be Gyromitra / Discina ancillus, but this is not ancillus. This is definitely something different, closer to Leucoxantha. Is that what I call? Is that the name I'm using? Leucoxantha? I think it is. Yeah, Leucoxantha. So now I said that's what I'd call it, and somebody else came on and said, "Yeah, you're right. That's what I'd call it too." But honestly, I think this is actually something else, and hopefully, I'm going to find out, before next spring. Look at the interesting the nodes on the poles, though. Sometimes they're like a little bit notched. Sometimes they're just like truncate. And there were 2 fruitings of this, but they were obviously, to me, the same species. They were all like in one half of a square foot of area. That they were all found in that same little area, like a few days apart. So these are not bleeding, but I'm not sure what I mounted these in. This might be mounted in Congo red. I'm not sure. I should have written it down. I guess I didn't.
It's some in blue, cotton blue, others in water.
Some of them are in water. Okay. Oh, so some of them are in cotton blue. Okay, and some of them are in water. This looks like it's probably in water here.
Yeah,
Pretty interesting.
yeah.
I probably, a relatively new species.
Yeah, but
spores
I
are
bet
really
the
large as
blue is
well.
showing more contrast, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure
wild.
which are which. The photos might be labeled H2O or CB. I'm not sure. But at any rate, none of these are showing this like bleeding appendages. So yeah, interesting species. Hopefully I find something out about it. Now I have found what I thought was Gyromitra leucoxantha in a different area a few years ago. Twice actually, in two different places I found it. And this one seems different. It looks more like a Pezizales, really, but it's not. This is not Pezizales. These spores are not Pezizales spores. They're something closer to Gyromitra.
Okay, all right. Let's see what else you got here. Fistulina americana coming up.
Oh, did you? I think you might have skipped over the best one.
Oh, let me go back then.
Yeah, the sour biella.
Wow, I don't think you're sharing. I think
Yeah, I
dropped
didn't start
down.
it yet. Here it is. I'm sure now.
Nice. I remember this sour biella.
Yeah, nobody knows what this is, but it is sour biella. It was sequenced. Fundus sequenced this for me for free because it was clearly something that was very unusual. Growing in an area where I just toss all these raked leaves, most of them are maple tree leaves. So they're like these stocked cups. So there's a couple of sour biella species that you'll find in field guides. That none of them match. None of them match. There's one that looks like this. I forget the name, but the spores are like twice as big as these spores. So that kind of rules that out. And if you don't want to believe the spores, then you look at the sequence, which is posted here. It's you can if you wanted to see the sequence and run a blast, you could. And if you run that blast, actually, if you click on run blast, I think you'll be able to see the blast. And so you'll be able to see what matches this genetically.
Dave, I
But
suggest you do not run blast from MO because they got it wrong a long time ago. I'm not sure if they fixed it.
now they fixed it. It's working a lot better.
Yeah, because I prefer just to copy the ITS
That's what I've
sequence.
been. I was doing that for a long time,
Yeah.
but I've been just clicking on their run blast thing, and it's been working a lot better.
Yeah, but I just don't trust this to begin with. It's easier to go to the source and do it yourself.
Well, what they do now is when you click run blast, either the accession in GenBank, it goes into the little field, or the base pairs go into the little field. So the little field fills up first before there's an actual list of matches.
No, the
I
problem
think
that they had with blasting it directly from MO did not involve, getting to the website. It's the algorithms. I think that we're trying to match it to the less similar accessions as opposed to more similar accessions. That's where the problem began. So you will get a different list of things.
Oh, well, I'll do it again then on my own.
So
But
I
I'm pretty
strongly
sure.
suggest that you just copy and
Yeah,
go directly into into
the
the
first
NCBI
time
website.
the first time I did this, I did what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I've only recently started using clicking on run blast because I had trouble with that as well. It seemed like it wasn't working, so I didn't use their feature. But I think they may have fixed it. Anyway, so these spores are two gutules in quite a few of them. They're not very big. So these spores are maybe up to around 13 microns I have here is sort of the upper limit on the length. But the thing that looks a little bit like these that you'll find like in the Bisset Boyd book or other field guides, the spores are like 20 some microns long. You know, they're like so much bigger. It can't be the same thing really. So these are paraphyses here, these club-like things. We just saw the ascus. Here's some spores. You can see that they're bigutulate. So I got pretty good information on this. I mean, a professional would do a lot more with their microscope, but at least I got spores and ascus and the paraphyses. So I still have a little bit of this material at home, I believe. I sent some to Steve Russell also, just to see if he feels like doing anything with it. But it was Fundus who sequenced this. So the closest match is a newly documented species from the French Alps.
Wow.
Is that Imperialis, Dave?
No.
Imperialis was one of the things that matches up somewhat with the way it looks. There were two names. One of them was suggested by Sigrid, and the other one I found in the Bisset ASCO field guide, the ASCO book. It's not really. It's sort of a field guide, I guess you would say, for that book. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's none. Even the best match is like, the identity match is less than 90%.
Right.
So this is something novel. So I'm really hoping it comes up again, but I'm not going to hold my breath because this seems to be something very rare, and it's probably only comes up, rarely.
When I ran the blast just now, the one I put in the chat came up 99%.
Oh, really? Oh, which one was that?
Angustipora?
Angustipora.
I'm not getting that result. I'm getting only 93% similarity, and I actually copied only ITS.
I see. Okay.
So I'm seeing Sorbiella montana as the top hit, and I think that one is from Europe.
Yeah, that's the one from France, I believe, and it's not a real good match on the identity, right? Mike, you might be looking at the cover.
Yeah, the query cover for that hit is 100%, and it's 92.8% similar.
Oh, 90. Oh, so it's 93. Okay, so I thought it was less than 90. I guess I forgot. So it's 93, unless this is another one that was added recently.
No, there's
That's
just
still
nothing
pretty
else.
low. That's still pretty low. I mean, that's indicative of the species being different.
Yeah.
See, if you do the the blasting, the presentation of the results in the old format, you will see actually a diagram of sequence alignments, and you'll find out that a lot of the hits that are followed below, structurally they are so different from what you have that they completely clip the beginning of the sequence. So it's very dissimilar from everything else, and that's why you only have query covers in the 70s as opposed to 90s and 100%.
Oh, so they just get rid of like parts of the sequence that
exactly.
are like
so this is what this is what GenBank or Blast software does.
Oh, okay.
If they see something which is structurally a big mess, they just completely cut it out.
So that's why you really do need good cover.
I mean, you have to really look into aligning sequences, by yourself.
Right.
I'm not saying you have to do this with every single one, but just select a few of the ones that you're interested in and see, first of all, if that sequence is complete in GenBank, and then do the alignment yourself. And then you'll see why the software is doing it.
I see. Yeah, but all that I'm saying is that if you have like a cover of like 80%, And but you have like a 93% identity match, that doesn't really mean very much. In fact, it probably means they're not very, very close.
Now, you also have to understand that some sequences are partial, so they will give you 100% query, but they will not give you a complete, end-to-end overlap just because that particular sequence is partial.
Just because it's short.
Exactly.
Okay,
So you have to also look at, the result that you get, how long it is. Is it 100, say 700 base pairs,
Right,
or only like
right.
200 something,
Yeah,
And where it
yeah, I
came
know.
from,
There's more to do than just look at those two statistics.
exactly. But the thing is, structurally, Montana, from Switzerland to France, the accession OR 853-408 is the one that I think is related to this one, but only at 93% similarity. And then
Yeah.
from that point on, it just drops to 90% with something called Sowerbiella angustispora, and that species is apparently from France as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
Dave, I think what you should do, you should go on MO and propose Sowerbiella SPPA01.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think you should do
indeed.
that.
Yeah, because you don't need to like provide authorship or anything like that for
The
these.
rationale you provide is that in GenBank there are no hits, and apparently, it's a new phylogenetic species that has
Right.
not been so far, covered anywhere.
PA01. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Thanks. Good idea. So this thing here, this was at the Mont Alto foray with Eastern Penn mushroomers. We were in our car actually, and we had a few members, forayers with us, and we were sort of spotting mushrooms from the car. Most of them were Amanita Ravenellii or Rhopalopus. I mean, those are hard to tell apart, but we would see those like from 30 yards away because they're big and they really stick out. So we're going really slowly in our car and looking out the window. And the one young lady in our car says, "Stop." So I backed up and I'm like, "What? That's a rock, isn't it?" It looked like a rock by a tree. And she said, no, that looks like some kind of mushroom. So we got it. And so we started to examine it a little bit, and it sort of tore apart when I was trying to pry it off the tree. I didn't really want to damage the tree. And we look inside and it looks just like fistulina. And that's what fistulina looks like, the flesh, like marbled, like a steak kind of. So I think this may have got onto some sequencing queue. I brought home some. I probably still have some of the material. I'll have to check my material and see if I still have some of this, but it looks like it's probably just like a really abnormal fistulina. So it's not showing any pore surface.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Is this where it was attached down here, Dave?
Kind of, yeah. It was kind of broadly attached, but yeah,
Mhm.
more toward the where you were pointing was
This-
where it was like really, really pretty firmly attached.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was a pretty strange thing.
It is. It looks kind of blasé back here.
Yeah, it looks like a rock.
Yeah.
I thought it was a rock.
Yeah. Always pays to turn these things over. Yeah.
Yeah, and back your car up too when somebody says, "What was that?"
All right. Well, cool. That's really interesting to see. I don't find this hardly ever.
Yeah, I don't find this very
Spirina.
often, but when I do find it, it looks more like what it's supposed to
Mhm.
look like.
Yeah.
when I was at Montalto 2 years ago and spoke to some of the local attendees of this foray, they told me that people, the locals frequently go into the woods and collect, what they call Citrina hepatica. It's a species that is being actively hunted in those woods by the locals.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. There's certainly a lot of oak in the woods near, surrounding Mont Alto.
I was with Mike. I forget his name. He is one of the
Yeah, Mike Metler, maybe
not Mike Moore. Maybe it was Mike.
George.
George. Sorry, yeah, George Morrison or whatever his name is. Yes,
Yeah,
George. Yeah, he told me that we were together at that foray in the second day. You were there too, Dave. I forget the name, but we seen people actually locals driving in their cars and collect mushrooms. I mean, why else would you go there and drive around in these abandoned dirt roads in the middle of nowhere?
yeah, and they're probably not looking for Amanita ravenelii. So
And certainly these people didn't look like drug dealers to me either. So they were clearly after mushrooms. They just basically drive around and see what you see.
yeah,
I got lost going to Bass River, one of our forays. I turned down the wrong dirt road and just kind of pushed through, and I was just stopping whenever I saw one of the Lexinum vulpinums. Ended up, with probably 5 pounds of them that day, just driving down the road. It was fun.
Yep.
yeah. Hunting boletes from my car. I do that too.
If you're collecting, Brandon, in state land, be careful with the rangers.
Yeah, that's a good point. I probably shouldn't be promoting that I've done that. I never did that. I made that story up.
Yeah, just be discreet. That's certainly as a word of caution there.
Okay, so I don't know if Jason is here, but I thought I would post this as Jason's interesting find because he found this and identified it. During the Victor Gambino foray, a few of us went to Hickory Run State Park because I knew there was a little bit more rain there because it was really so dry at that time. And Jason found this thing. I had no idea what it was. I don't know this species. Exobasidium vaccinii. So it grows on a rhododendron leaf. I don't know what happened to the material at the foray. Probably would have been a good thing to save.
Yeah, I've come across this thing a few times in the past. I think a lot of these are taxonomic cobwebs. I think a lot of them are host specific. This thing is called vaccinii, which would suggest the host plant is a vaccinium, which is blueberry, but this was grown on rhododendron. So I think a lot of these require further study.
That was one of the more interesting things I saw last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jason, you found vaccinii, Exobasidium vaccinii before. Have you found it on rhododendron or do you find it on blueberry?
I'm trying to remember. I think I found it on blueberry in the past. I think I've found it a couple times. I think I found it on both rhododendron and blueberry. Or at least that's the name I put on it. There are other Exobasidium species, but there's not a lot of good field guides for these things. So
yeah, and you guys know I'm not a botanist in any way. Those two things, rhododendron and blueberries, can't be that closely related, are they? Same family or something?
Same family.
Okay.
They're both ericaceous, or in the family Ericaceae.
Nice. Thank you.
All right. How are people doing? We've been at this for 2 hours now.
Yeah, we can skip the other 17 things I sent you because there's
I mean,
there's so many interesting things.
I'm still around, Lila. If you want to keep sharing things, or I'm happy to hang around. Seeing cool stuff, it's the best of.
Yeah. All right, let me stop the recording here. How do I do that? And wrap this up so it doesn't get to be abnormally long.
You know, if anybody really wants to see these other things, you can always just forward my email to anybody who would like it. You know, and then all the links are there.
Yeah, I can do that too. All right.